they won't give you no documentation.
Exactly.
See, I came from the school of John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben and them out of the Afrocentric movement.
Oh, yeah.
But then
617.
My name is Ramses.
Okay, Ramsey, you have a question for Bobby Hemmitt?
And in there, it's talking about all this stuff that's happening right now, but he said you must focus on the 2012 cycle. We are in the 2012 cycle at this particular time, so that's where you don't miss out on it. Because if we go to that actual date, you'd probably be disappointed. It's like the Y2K thing. You know, you couldn't tell people were stockpiling and doing all kind of stuff. And Y2K came, and nothing happened. I got a friend that worked at a black college, the college I went to, Clark Atlanta University. He said when he went into the black college and cut on the computer and it booted up right away, he knew that it was a big hoax. Because if anything gonna shut down, that's gonna be the first thing to shut down is some stuff on some black college campus. You see what I'm saying? So the point I'm trying to make here is you focus on the now, and that's the key.
Yes. Right. Okay. What about the Lucifer Project?
Which one? What do you mean? Give me an example. I've heard of it.
Someone in the chat room asked me to ask you about the Lucifer Project.
Tell them to explain what they mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll wait till he...
Well, right, because I do know if you're talking about Lucifer, the historical Lucifer, that is a metaphysical concept.
Well, let's talk about that one.
The Lucifer is the light bringer. He's mentioned in Genesis, and is also mentioned in Revelation. And it's Lucifer. This is a great mystery, but it's really beautiful when you break it. They say Lucifer fell like the morning star. That's in Genesis, I think. When you get to Revelation, Jesus say, "I am the morning star." And what do they mean by that? It means Jesus and Lucifer is one. What is Lucifer? Lucifer is the light bringer. What is the light bringer? If you break this thing on the esoteric, there's nothing talking about the pineal gland, the third eye. Well, the third eye is coming from the eye. It's called the eye of Horus, and as we all know, Horus is the precursor of Jesus. Jesus was basically plagiarized off of Horus and a couple of other multiplicity of crucified saviors and all of that type of thing around the ancient world, and then historicalized. You see what I'm saying? There was nothing that went on in Rome and Jerusalem or whatever that didn't go on in every other country in the world, or when it talks about this whole Christ energy. But that's a whole other lecture. But the Lucifer aspect, when you break it down, there ain't no man up under no ground with no pitchfork. The Lucifer thing means, they said that Lucifer fell out of heaven and was bound for 1,000 years. 1,000 years is just a number. When you bind a spirit, you encase it into a human body. So in so many words, we are the Lucifer. When you break this thing down and get out of the spookism of religion, the high priest understood this thing as a much more scientific level. The Lucifer simply means the pineal gland. You see, and Jacob wrestled with the devil. You see, till daybreak. And at daybreak, he saw what? He saw the face of God that was called what? Pineal. You see. So what is the devil bringing him to the face of? We're talking about polarities. The darkness produces the light. So when we talk about Jesus and the devil, Horus and Set, it goes on and on. These different, Osiris and Set, when you deal with these particular polarities, there's nothing but energies fighting for supremacy, or ultimately scientific principles that will give way to a new beginning. You understand what I'm coming from? Let me give you an example. For Jesus to rise, or Horus, or Heru, to rise, it meant that he had to be at a fallen state. See, to rise, the definition of the word means that it has to come from on low. You can't rise from on high. You understand what I'm saying? Well, what is the fallen state? The fallen state is the physical body. You see, we were advanced entities and spiritual beings that took on a physical human experience. And as a result, we will go back to a higher illumination beyond this, and that is the Christ principle that they're talking about. And that is not synonymous to a group of people in the Roman Empire that tried to corner the market with the principles that the ancient Egyptians had, the ancient Sumerians had, the ancient Phoenicians had, and everybody around the ancient world had this same principle. You see what I'm saying? And they tried to historicalize it to make it a exclusive thing. So that's what that is talking about as far as the mythology on the whole Lucifer thing. You see what I'm saying? And basically what it is all you had to know about it, never really thought about this, but I did a whole 10-year study on nothing but the doggone devil. I'm not saying nothing but the devil, but I did a 10-year study on the doggone devil and Satan. And when you study something in all its form, you break the mystique from it and you get the real meaning behind it. And these are polarities and principles more than they are historical people that say the devil made me do it. That's a scapegoat. You see what I'm saying? But when you talk about Lucifer, that's nothing but a certain light coming from a dark, dormant space, manifesting into a manifested space, which is the light thing, which would be the Jesus thing. So that's what that is. It's just like the Antichrist. It's just like the Antichrist. If you was to take a Christ means light, but if you was to take a light, strike a match and put it to a white wall, and take your thumb and put in front of the match, you will see a shadow. You see what I'm saying? The shadow is just the polarities of the light. You see what I'm saying? Right. It's scientific more than it is this whole evil or wicked thing. You see, but as time goes on and cultures come and get younger and younger, they tend to lump things that they don't understand under the department of evil. So several ancient spiritual things that happened for thousands of years, when later generations came and they didn't understand those particular principles, they just lumped it all up under evil. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Well, Bobby, we have a lot of people that want to ask you some questions, so I'm going to open the lines up.
All right.
Okay. Let's see here. Let me open this up. Let's see. Call 706. 706. Are you there? Caller. Okay, let me go to the next one.
Hello?
Area code, is this area code 617?
Yes.
Okay, what's your name? 617.
My name is Ramses.
Okay, Ramsey, you have a question for Bobby Hemmitt?
Yeah, I have a question. Recently, there's been a lot going on YouTube, and there's been a big debate between people who are mostly into the old Kemetic science and these brothers that call themselves Hebrew Israelites.
Right, yeah.
There's been a lot of friction. Now, I'm one who studies Kemetic science, but
right.
I want you to see if you can put any light on this thing about the Israelites and who they are, or if it's even real.
Okay. The best way to do this, to be fair, is to give people scholarship. When you give people scholarship, that ends that doggone argument. And after reviewing the scholarship, if they want to remain a fool, then let them be a fool. You see what I'm saying? Because knowledge is a privilege. And I'll give you the scholarship in a few minutes, but let me go into this. Basically, it's a family fight. Let's say, let me give you an example. Let me break it down. What's a black part of Detroit called?
Black Bottom.
Black Bottom. And what's another black part of Detroit? Just any place, other place.
I'm not familiar with Detroit. I don't.
Well, let's put it this way. Let me do it in Atlanta thing. We got a black part of Atlanta, which is Fulton County, Atlanta. Then we have Decatur. Just as many black people live in Decatur. We got a family fight going on between the Decatur Negroes and the Fulton County Negroes. Same thing what you got going on with the whole Egyptian thing. The Hebrews was nothing but a branch of Egyptians that came up out of Cush.
Right.
that came up out of Cush, and it came to a head under Akhenaten, and they had to get the hell up out of Egypt. And they didn't even write the Torah until 700 years after so-called Moses' death, but Moses was the priest king of Akhenaten, because Moses itself is an Egyptian word, Moses, Tutmosis, you see, to draw out, to draw up out of water. So this is an Egyptian name itself. So what it is we got an argument on a family fight, a group of priests that was Egyptian priests that left Kemet, went to the area of Samaria, Babylonia, whatever, and took on the culture of them as far as so that you couldn't trace it back to the Metanetta. But they took these principles, you see, with them, and it's a family fight, but they got their origin in Kemet. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Now, the whole concept here is there was never any slaves that built no pyramids. Hell, they said that the pyramids and the temples and all that was already finished before the so-called first Hebrew father, Abraham.
Right.
Which these particular patriarchs are only concepts that never were historical figures. Let me give you an example. You got Abraham, which is the father of the Hebrew race, and you got Sarah, his wife, right? Now, if you go to India, which is nothing but another form of Kush, Indus Kush, because you got the wonderful Ethiopian empire that ruled the whole world damn near, prior to Kemet.
Right.
But you see, if you go to India, the father of the Hindu pantheon is Brahma. Now look at the word Brahma and look at the word Abraham and descramble them. Abraham, Brahma, you got it, baby. Same God. Look at the word Brahma and look at the word Abraham, and you can get Abraham out of Brahma. And so Brahma's wife is called Sarasvati. Abraham's wife is called Sarah. Do you get the connection? We're talking about mystical concepts that was later historicalized as a people 700 years after the Exodus, which was not an exodus of some slaves, because no slaves ever built no pyramids. Those were advanced scientists that built the pyramids. You see what I'm saying? But they basically took the same mythologies and made them historical. It happened twice in history. It happened in history it could have happened several times, but it happened with the first, it was one of the first ones that historicalized sublime mythology was your doggone Hebrews. The other ones is the Jesus factor, sublime mythology. You see what I'm saying? You just got to use common sense. It is irrational for an Eskimo to worship a Jewish savior as its particular manifested being of inspiration, you see what I'm saying, and redemption. It makes no sense. You see what I'm saying?
I agree.
See, so my point here is, what we're dealing with here is we are dealing with concepts, because all of it was black. You see what I'm saying? But what we're dealing with here is basically another branch of ancient Egyptians. First, it started off with the pre-dynastic Egyptians. You see what I'm saying? And later on took power again as the Hyksos. So there wasn't no Hyksos people that came out of what's called bullshit. It was the pre-dynastic period people who actually took power again for another 100 years. They was already in Kemet the whole time, because the pre-dynastic Egyptians never really left Egypt. And the second thing was Akhenaten's people, who was some Kushite pre-dynastic lineage that basically reestablished Atan again. You see what I'm saying? And then and then got in a whole bunch of trouble, ruled for 15 years or something like that, and had to flee Kemet. And later on, his members and his followers, 700 years later, came and gave you the actual Hebrew concepts of things. You see what I'm saying? So let me give you some documentary. Let me give you some bibliography. I like to put a book in a nigger's face. That way they can't run from it. Get a book called Moses, Pharaoh of Egypt, by Ahmed Osman. Ahmed Osman. Don't ask me how to spell. Moses, Pharaoh of Egypt, by Ahmed Osman. Get another book, older book, Moses and Monotheism, by Sigmund Freud. Get another book called The Moses Mystery, by Gary Greenberg. The Moses Mission by Gary Greenberg. Excellent book. Another book to get is the book Echoes of the Old Dark Land by Dr. Charles Finch. By Dr. Charles Finch. Echoes of the Old Dark Land. Themes from an African Eden. But it's called Echoes from the Old Dark Land. There's so many books on this whole concept of this whole Hebrew thing, as well as Book of the Beginnings, Volume 2, Gerald Massey, 1881, where it tells you the Egyptian origins of the Hebrews as traced from the monuments. Another book to get is called Celestial Ship of the North. Celestial Ship of the North by E. Valencia Straighton. Whole chapter on the African origins of the Hebrew race, or the African-Egyptian origin of the Hebrew race. We can go on and on and on, but you're building some scholarship. And that's why I don't debate a Negro with just running off at the doggone mouth, and he can't back stuff up. Because we left those records behind for us to get. And that's where I go with them on that. That way that you legitimize yourself by giving them the scholarship, because we left those records behind so the truth could be found. And forget a person in a tradition. A lot of times a person in his tradition is what he is raised in. They have to uphold the tradition even though some things become irrational. Right. Because it's a tradition, and they got family involved and all of this, and because it's not a scholarly aspect of common sense and logic, they have to dismiss rationale because of a tradition. And so, therefore, they will fight you to the end. Right. Even when they read these books, because it's a tradition that's set up on an economical system or a sociological system, they will never come up out of that, not unless they're individuals that want to know the truth.
Ramsey, I'm gonna. The lines are full, so I'm gonna have to take another call.
I got one more quick one. It's real quick. Okay. Is it all right?
Go ahead.
I have a theory about like blacks in Americas in terms of our nationality. Now we got people call us so many names: Egyptians, Moors, Israelites.
Yeah.
I personally believe that we have become something totally new. I want to know if you agree with me on that.
Yes, alchemically, that's what the whole concept of the new thing is. We are something totally new based on our alchemical, which the Egyptians said, as good you said, is a very important question. Because even the Schomburg in New York, when studying the African-American history, they say, hey, look, this is a story, when it all is told, this is a story of a redoing of a people. So, yes, we become new, and that's what alchemy. Alchemy is the science of the ancient Egyptians. It's called a royal art. That means you take something original, and you make a new entity, a new particle out of it, based on the different mixture of bloodlines. We got every bloodline in the tribes of Africa in our blood system, plus we got white, we got Native American, we got different things, and what happens is we become what is called a new entity. Not a lesser entity, but a much more powerful entity because it's made new. You access all processes of the human kingdom in which you did when you originally started out. Now you got it all. Not only do you have the original bloodline, but you now have the offsprings of the evolution of whatever these races became around the world. You see what I'm saying? So, which makes it a super atom. We're a super being. That's what the new Superman is. The Superman is a divine mutation. It's called transmutation. Where you take an original particle, that's what's talking about in the X-Men, and you transmutate it over the course of millions of years until you become a super atom. And that's what's happening with black people right now. It's not by mistake that one of the brothers from the free throw line at the dunk contest this year dunked the ball with a Superman suit on.
Yeah.
That's that whole thing that went down with Barry Bonds. It wasn't about no doggone steroids. It was about he tapped into a latent part of the melanin that made him a Superman. You see what I'm saying? Because my point here was he was not on steroids when he broke the record because they tested for steroids. They tested for that since 2002. So if it's not steroids, then why is he breaking the record? When they're saying steroids are supposed to riddle the body, whereas you get weaker after you get off of them. That is the super atom. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
And so, yes, we are new people. All right.
Thank you, Ramsey.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go to another caller here. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Is this area code 614?
Yes, this is 614. Hello.
What's your name?
Erica from Single Mommies.
Okay. Hi, Erica. You have a question for Bobby Hemmitt?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
I wanted to know, I'm studying the things that you're talking about. Can you give me a beginning point, somewhere I can go and kind of understand the absolute beginning? Because I don't seem to have a good timeline, and I'm getting confused on my timeline.
That's going to be problems.
Oh.
Basically, what you do is you try to study. You say as far as the beginning of the world, or the beginning of knowledge, or existence itself.
Well, since Greek took over Egypt, is that kind of the beginning? Is that how, did they really burn down the library? How did you get that information?
Oh, so you mean the beginning of our fall?
Yes.
Oh, no. Our beginning of our fall started. The beginning of our fall started before the first monuments in Egypt was built. This fall has been coming on for years. Let me explain what I mean by that. You got to go back to this. We used to be advanced spiritual beings. Then we fell into a human existence. And the human existence lasts for years, but it was not supposed to be the ending up point or the end all and be all. What it meant was we were supposed to advance to another level. So we walked around as these first humans that had all of these extraordinary powers and different things for years, but what happened was we started losing memory and started shutting down, going into a cocoon stage. And you go into the cocoon stage so that you can, like a caterpillar goes into a cocoon to become a butterfly. So a part of our shutting down was our metamorphosis stage. So what had happened was we started losing divine memory. And as a result, the Egyptians or the Canaanites recorded, in a recording period of the monumental phase, they recorded all of this particular knowledge in all of these particular temples. Do you know that a part of the Greeks coming in and accessing some of that particular information was a part of the plan?
Wow.
And what I mean by that is this. You got to look at a bigger picture. They understood that we was going to deteriorate and we was going to go to sleep as a people. So they built these particular monuments, and they were there for thousands of years to calculate all this type of stuff, as well as going up into places like India, where a lot of the advanced information was also in India. So they took two nations, the Egyptian and basically the Vedic Indian aspect, which is the same stuff. It's just a different language, Sanskrit or whatever. These two black nations, and what they did was they understood that Egypt was going to have several invasions later on. These invasions would come to bring a certain amount of knowledge out. So it was a divine plan to give it to the Greeks. Because guess what? I'm going to ask you something. If the Greeks couldn't read Egyptian, how would they be able to even understand what the Egyptian stuff is if not the Egyptians did not translate the stuff for them?
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, the temple of Isis at Philae, which was the last temple to be closed, for 100 years, close to 200 years probably, all they did was took metaneta and translated it into Greek, Latin, Arabic, Aramaic, Hebrew, and later-day Egyptian called Coptic. And they did this for a reason, so this particular information could survive going into the modern world, because they knew that we was going to go to sleep, go into slavery, all of this, because they got texts. They got the Hermetic text where they talk about us going into slavery. And they say, although you will be an Egyptian or an African, your mind will be of another race. That's in the Hermetic text. Hermetic text, Walter Scott. Hermetic text, Peter Gandhi, Timothy Freak. Hermetic text, Copenhagen. Was took metaneta and translated it into Greek, a certain amount of knowledge out. So it was a divine plan to give it to the Greeks. Because guess what? I'm going to ask you something. If the Greeks couldn't read Egyptian, how would they be able to even understand what the Egyptian stuff is if not the Egyptians did not translate the stuff for them?
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, the temple of Isis at Philae, which was the last temple to be closed, for 100 years, close to 200 years probably, all they did was took metaneta and translated it into Greek, Latin, Arabic, Aramaic, Hebrew, and the later-day Egyptian called Coptic. And they did this for a reason, so this particular information could survive going into the modern world, because they knew that we was going to go to sleep, go into slavery, all of this, because they got texts. They got the Hermetic text where they talk about us going into slavery. And they say, although you will be an Egyptian or an African, your mind will be of another race. That's in the Hermetic text. Hermetic text, Walter Scott. Hermetic text, Peter Gandy, Timothy Freak. Hermetic text, Copenhagen. We can go on and on about the scholarship. We got those things. The perfect sermon of Asclepius, which is the father of medicine. They got to pray to Asclepius when they take the Hippocratic oath, and Asclepius is the Greek word for Imhotep. So anyway, the fall came long before, because our time was running out. Our memory was going. And as a result, we had to record it, give it to the rest of the world. That's what the Moors came in. The Moors are nothing but an Egyptian. The last invasion of Egypt was by the Arabs. The Moors banded together under Islam and took this stuff up into Europe and set up the 16 universities to preserve this. Some people say, well, how did they with Islam? No. The Egyptian priests understood a religion. They could go into a religion like you go into a Democrat or Republican party. They could use it as a political system for conquest to take something to a people. So that's what they did with the whole Islamic thing. So when you look at this bigger picture, all this stuff here was the way it is supposed to be. And they said we will be in the West, because the word Osiris means the great Westerner. Right. In the Hermetic text, they say, will we ever get out of this slumber? They say yes. They say, well, it'll be a group of ancient Egyptians living in the latter days in the Western Hemisphere. And they would reestablish Maya. So whenever we claimed Kemet in the late 80s and the 90s, that was the coming back of those particular Egyptians rising up, or those Kemites. You see what I'm saying? And all other nations, Moors. We are everything. Somebody say, you Muslim, I say, yeah. You Hebrew, I say, yeah. They say, you Kemet, I say, yeah, because I know that we are the authors of all of that. Okay. You see what I'm saying?
Right. So where can we go to look for faith? What would you suggest?
Well, look, if you could just access my tapes, I got over 300 tapes.
Oh, okay. Where do I?
And not only do I have 300 tapes, my tapes, you can actually take my tapes, look at the tapes, and write down scores of bibliography. You see what I'm saying? You could go to YouTube and see my stuff and different stuff. There's Access Bobby Hemmitt. It's tons, and I'm not just saying me. There's other people, because there's other scholars that's involved in this, but I'm just trying to say I made sure that a lot of the information, because a lot of them get up and talk before people, but they won't give you no documentation.
Exactly.
See, I came from the school of John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben and them out of the Afrocentric movement.
Oh, yeah.
But then again, I furthered it into the metaphysic movement, but the thing about it here is, in the metaphysical movement, I learned that to document heavy. So I have tons and tons of documentation. I would much rather you access the documentation than to take what I say face value. That don't mean nothing. You see what I'm saying? It's not important that you believe in what I'm dealing with. That's not important. It's important is for you to get a certain amount of information so that you can become enlightened and decide for yourself. And when you get that certain amount of information, your spirit will open up and the truth will be there.
Now, how do you, and I'm going to ask more questions and I'm leaving, how do you kind of deal with the information that you're learning? Because I'm learning a lot of information, and I'm getting frustrated when I'm trying to, help bring other people.
There you go. This is what you do. This information is for you and you only.
Okay.
Do not make the mistake that every Negro that learns something does. They go and try to teach others.
Yes.
Everybody don't wake up the same time every day.
Yeah.
And when you try to, a person's enlightenment and their awakening period is based on their own time clock. And whenever you disturb a person that's sleeping, you might get killed. And we've made those mistakes. We have our family members, which is a bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
And it's usually only one or two people in a whole family of a 20 that's even conscious. It is not for you to wake up them because you get beat over the head when you wake up dead people. Let the dead lie with the dead. This is a process for your soul to learn. That every Negro that learns something does. They go and try to teach others into the metaphysic movement, but the thing about it here is, in the metaphysical movement, I learned that to document heavy. So I have tons and tons of documentation. I would much rather you access the documentation than to take what I say face value. That don't mean nothing. You see what I'm saying? It's not important that you believe in what I'm dealing with. That's not important. It's important is for you to get a certain amount of information so that you can become enlightened and decide for yourself. And when you get that certain amount of information, your spirit will open up and the truth will be there.
Now, how do you, and I'm going to ask one more question and I'm leaving, how do you kind of deal with the information that you're learning? Because I'm learning a lot of information, and I'm getting frustrated when I'm trying to, help bring other people.
There you go. This is what you do.
Them.
This information is for you and you only.
Okay.
Do not make the mistake that every Negro that learns something does. They go and try to teach others.
Yes.
Everybody don't wake up the same time every day.
Yeah.
And when you try to, a person's enlightenment and their awakening period is based on their own time clock. And whenever you disturb a person that's sleeping, you might get killed. And we've made those mistakes. We have our family members, which is a bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
And it's usually only one or two people in a whole family of a 20 that's even conscious. Mm-hmm. It is not for you to wake up them because you get beat over the head when you wake up dead people. Let the dead lie with the dead. This is a process for your soul to learn to be God. Mm-hmm. Come back to be the goddess. Not to run off and bump off at the mouth with a bunch of niggas out here that's going to reject it.
Exactly.
That's not important. See, we was trained that way in the 60s, each one teach one. Well, that's good on mundane and political knowledge. But when you're dealing with something advanced, as spiritual and advanced history, our people won't get it until they wake up. And everybody's waking up is based on their own time. So don't make the mistake to try to teach nobody when you're supposed to be learning yourself.
You're right.
You would not go and be in the damn 4th grade, 4 years into learning, and call yourself going to become a damn teacher and try to teach somebody something. You see, when you still trying to learn this shit yourself. Mm-hmm. So if you say you're trying to figure shit out, so why would you even open your mouth to somebody else when you don't have all the answers yourself? I'm not talking about you. I'm just trying to give you the concept. Absolutely. Do not try to teach nobody nothing. Now, what will happen is this. The enlightened ones is spiritual. They will find you. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
They will find you. It's something spiritual. Might be a conversation, might be something you might have on, but they will find you. But a dead person, you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Don't waste your time.
Okay.
You see.
But can you still help them with, kind of the basics of, parenting and things, just basic stuff now?
Well, that's just basic human. That's just basic human survival on the planet with them.
Okay.
I'm just talking about knowledge.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? I'm just talking about knowledge. Wow. You see, basic human survival, you help, we're not talking about being exclusive. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? But my point is understand the people that you're dealing with. You would not go to a baby and say, you're going to learn this calculus today. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
All right, it's the same concept. You got to know the people that you're dealing with.
You're right.
You see.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to go to area code 267. Oh, they just hung up. Wait a minute. Okay. I have to wait till they call back because they just hung up. Okay, y'all can call in if the line is open if you want to call in. Here we go. They back. Let's see.
Hotep.
Hello.
Hello, Hotep.
Hi.
Yeah,
who's calling?
Hotep.
Yes, Hotep. This is 267. This is Evan, the recovering African enslaved in America, representing the voices in the margins.
All right.
Yes. Thank you. What is this, Brenda or
Beverly.
2012? Beverly
yes.
D for having Brother Bobby, and thank you to the brother Dark Side Magic for sharing the information that allowed me to be here tonight to connect and to hear you speak, Brother Hemmitt, sort of live and in person.
I hear you.
Oh, wow. It's like it does my spirit good. It just provides, that confirmation, that validation that, my spirit requires from time to time living in this madness. And it's, those last, I kind of had, somewhat of a question or just a comment, just about the madness and what I call, and I've heard you refer to as well, just a bunch of, I call it just a bunch of shit. I'm representing Racism Non-Anonymous because I recognize racism in the lives of African descendants is not a secret, and it is about communication, and it's about cleaning up a bunch of shit that we've been told and fed. I've been, educated, if you will, in this Western
so
world,
have I.
and I know. And the interesting thing is, it's just like flipping mind blowing. I learned you go to the 60s, go to school, don't be no fool, do this, do that. Then you go to school and you learn some knowledge, and after I peeped a few things and I tried to come back and say, I'll be fine, do you see this? This is what they talk about, blah, blah, blah. I started to see this and make all these connections, and things just begin to be revealed to me. And as I kind of came back to tell people, it's like, oh, you don't know nothing. Oh, that's just that book knowledge. Or you don't know. So it's like your last comments just kind of helped me, put it into some perspective again. I've been moving to that conclusion. People, spirit-wise, have their own purpose for doing everything, waking up, staying asleep, whatever. Whatever their role is what their role is, what I get, what I give, but more so what I get is for my spirit and my spirit's purpose and my spirit's, journey in this dispensation or whatever. And I'm learning to sort of leave them alone. And it's interesting because I didn't even really have to leave them alone. They just started leaving me alone. For some strange reason, they just started leaving me alone, and it just makes for a very lonely journey. And so, it's good to kind of come in contact and listen to. No, she didn't ask a question, Shechem. I just wanted to make a comment. And somebody saying they're not an emotional person, and there's this thing that we have against emotions. And for me, it's like, well, that's my energy and motion. That's my spirit. That will keep me going. And so I value this thing called feelings and emotions. And, yes, it's important to know how to use them, know how to identify them appropriately, and then use them appropriately. It's only when, emotions are misdiagnosed or misunderstood that they begin to be problematic. And that's for me. So I just needed to sort of check in and say hi. I guess I don't have a question because a lot of things you're sharing are things that, I sort of have come to know in this whole process of education, and I kind of got what I needed from that whole system, and then the Spirit gives me, sort of fills in the gaps and if you will.
I hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, caller.
Thanks for letting me share. Thanks for listening to me share.
All right.
Thank you.
Any
okay,
other
I'm
calls?
going to area code 678. 678?
Yes.
Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, what is your name, 678?
L.
Who?
L.
Okay, L, speak up. Do you have a question for Bobby Hemmitt?
Yeah, I want to know what is Nibiru?
What is
Nibiru?
Nibiru.
Okay. Oh, Nibiru, okay. A lot of this particular information was popularized by Dr. York. Originally was originally popularized by Zachariah Sitchin, 12 Planets and different ones like that. When looking in the cosmos, always look in the Hermetic concept or the Egyptian concept of as above, so below. I'll give you two concepts. Nibiru could be a visible aspect of a comet or some type of supernova or some type of thing in the cosmic aspect, but Nibiru has a much more greater esoteric meaning. It's another name for Heru. It's called Nibiru in Sumeria, Babylonia, but it's called Neb-Heru in Egypt. Get a book called, that's documented in The Serious Mystery by Robert Temple. It's also documented a book called Architects of the Underworld by Bruce Rutz. Never let me open my mouth if I can't give you nothing that you can study. But also Nibiru, when you break it down on its esoteric level, Neb-Heru is nothing but the pineal gland. Neb-Heru, Nibiru. So it's so as above, so below. It's a cosmic event, a cosmic prophecy, but as below, it's nothing but the Horus or the pineal or the third eye, Nibiru. But it's called Neb-Heru in Kemet and Nibiru in Sumeria. But ultimately, it's another form of Horus. It's the form of Horus called Harmachis or Harmakit. Horus or Heru on the horizon. Or Heru Ma-Ku. Horus and Mayat combined together. The Ku means pyramid. Horus and Mayat in the pyramid. The pyramid is the ship. The ship that they're talking about, the ship and the ark and all of those particular things, is none other than the ship is none other than the pineal gland. So now let's take a goddess named Seshet. Seshet is the goddess of writing, knowledge, who sits beside the god Tahuti, who's the god Tahuti is the god of wisdom, arts, science, music, what have you, the sciences. But the goddess Seshet, who is called she, who is foremost in the house of books. She sits beside Tahuti and whispers in his ear and give him the knowledge. So Seshet, who is the foremost in the house of books, it's ironic that she has a symbol on her head that represents the pineal gland.
God of this world, whether it's being called Jesus, Allah, Jehovah, Yah.
How are we gonna say the masters? Now I remember when I first started out in this thing in the late
Mm-hmm.
So it's just interesting, how this thing. Uh-huh.